I buy one whole chicken every week. In this video, I'm going to turn it into multiple meals. But first, we got to start by breaking it down. Then I'm going to show you how to make some really simple chicken and rice. And we're just going to make a normal sandwich. And everything that's left over is going into the chicken stock that I'm going to make in the next video for Monday. And although I'm not a chicken expert, I am pretty close. So our first step here is going to be breaking down this chicken into multiple parts. We're going to make this into this. It's going to be really hard not to feel squeamish the first time you do this, but you're going to want to make sure you pat it dry, and then we're just going to trim off any extra skin. Don't be afraid, just have a sharp knife. I keep a bowl off to the side just for any extra skin or like pieces. Now for the wing, you're going to want to cut just around that joint that's connecting it to the breast. And it should come off pretty clean, but I think this is the fastest I've ever actually gotten it off. I think I was just in a flow state. And by the way, I'm Amari. I cook a lot at home and I'm just trying to make this stuff simple. Now me trying to take off this second wing is honestly the most realistic version of how this normally goes. Normally I struggle to get off at least one of the wings. Now this is the neck of the chicken. One of the very first things you're going to want to do though is make sure you reach inside of your chicken and pull out any of the giblets. So the giblets are things like the kidney, the heart, and the gizzard. And while I do that, I normally trim off any extra skin and throw it off to the side, because there's normally a lot of extra skin hanging around that cavity. Some people do hold on to this and render it down into fat they cook with though. There's a name for it, I just can't think of what it's called right now. Now we're just going to go ahead and disconnect the thighs and the breast. Just run your knife alongside the skin that connects the thigh to the breast. You'll see it, and then the breast will lift up on its own. I know this looks really complicated, but once you get comfortable doing it, it's so simple and easy. This full recording of me cutting this up from top to bottom was 3 minutes long. And you really just gotta make sure you have a sharp knife and the confidence and the gall. Like you really just have to be ready to go at it. So normally once I get that skin separated, I go ahead and just go straight down the middle and fully remove the breast from the back. I got this cleaver for the sole purpose of making this way easier, because this normally takes me a little minute when I use my small knife. But I'm still kind of scared to swing this cleaver. And now we have a whole chicken breast I'm just going to sit to the side. Now to disconnect the thighs and leg quarters from the back, I just cut where it connects. But I'm going to keep these as whole leg quarters. A leg quarter is the thigh and the drumstick together. Some people leave a piece of the back attached to their leg quarters, but I like the back just for my chicken stock, so I'm going to save it for that. So I normally just split the breast in half without removing the bone, because it dries out way slower when you leave the bone in, and it's hard to find bone-in chicken breast now. And once my bowl of chicken parts is kind of full, I do just take a smaller knife and kind of scrape off any extra feathers, skin, and fat, because you don't want to eat the feathers on accident. Sometimes the chickens have a lot of feathers on them when you get them, but other times they just don't at all. Just make sure you double check before you cook it. And I just keep all of these parts wrapped in plastic wrap in my freezer when I need them. Now every time I break down a chicken, I always start off by making chicken and rice with the thighs and the drumsticks, because I love leg quarters. And honestly, leg quarters are probably the best part of the chicken when it comes to like braising or cooking for a while. So I always start off with the chicken and rice, or I try to save them for chicken or rice, or something I know I have to cook for a while. Honestly, you get a lot of freedom with chicken and rice, but people say that I make some of the best that they've ever had. So I'll put in the description what I put into this. But normally, I just kind of season it or cook it however I'm feeling in the moment. You can really just use salt and pepper or whatever seasonings you have on hand. Just do the best you can with what you got. But people honestly hate so much on just using salt and pepper, when salt really just makes something taste more like itself, if that makes sense. And if you're going to use seasoned salt, don't use extra salt on top of that. That's just crazy. And you're going to want to make sure you get your hands in there and rub it together, so you can make sure that everything is evenly coated with the seasoning. And by the way, all of my measurements in the description are going to be estimates. I have no clue how much of what I put in there. But I do know I'm going to sear my leg quarters in olive oil before I go ahead and put the rice in. It just helps build flavor, but some people just totally skip this. I just like to make sure that it's brown and crisp on both sides. And what makes me eat this so often is the fact that, for one, I never really get tired of it, and I really do like that you can basically just walk away from this until the rice is ready. So while this cooks, I normally just like do laundry, or I'll start folding or cleaning something. And once that chicken's brown, I just go ahead and pour in as much water as I need for my rice. Just make sure it's lightly covered. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of meat glaze, or some chicken stock, or like a chicken bouillon cube, you'll see. Well, you'll see how to make this meat glaze in the next video. It's just concentrated chicken stock. And then I throw in about 3 bay leaves and just let it sit covered for 10 minutes on medium heat. And once that 10 minutes is up, I go ahead and add in my rice. I'm just going to use jasmine rice because that's what I have and I like jasmine rice. But I'll also just use normal white or brown rice too if I have it. It just depends on what I'm feeling that month. But I just go in with the spoon and make sure that all the liquid is covering the rice, and then I just throw the lid back on and walk away until the rice is done. Now there's nothing really complicated about chicken and rice at all, you really just gotta get the basics right. And now we've got the chicken and rice done. Make this twice a week. And now we're gonna make one of the most simple things that you can possibly make with a chicken breast, a chicken sandwich. Who doesn't love a chicken sandwich? Now the breast has the most cartilage and bone in it, so what we're gonna do is just follow along the cartilage and bone with a sharp, small knife. And as soon as you start getting that bone disconnected, the meat will essentially just start coming off, and you can kind of just pull the bone out. I honestly had no clue exactly how I was going to cook this chicken breast before I made this video, so you're kind of just watching me figure this out in real time too. I buy whole chickens because they typically last me for a while since I'm just cooking for myself, but I'm not going to tell you to go out and buy a whole chicken if you just want chicken tenders. There's only 2 tenders in each chicken, guys. I really do just try to follow that cartilage and bone as closely as I possibly can so I can keep all of my meat. But worst case scenario, I leave a little bit of meat on there and just throw it in for the chicken stock. And if you're wondering where the chicken tender is, it's immediately beneath the cartilage. You're going to see a little bit of white, and that's the chicken tender. Sometimes I'm able to pull it out and just separate it that way, but other times I just need a little bit of help with the knife. But generally speaking, for the most part, I don't really separate the tender at all because I don't really eat chicken tenders. Normally when I'm using a chicken breast, I'm not eating it whole, I'm just shredding it out. Chicken breast isn't one of my favorite parts of the chicken. Leg quarters are my favorite like I mentioned earlier, so normally with the breast, it's kind of just whatever. Looking back on this now, I don't know why I decided to remove the tender, probably just to show you guys, because I didn't really eat the tender separately, I just put it all on one sandwich. Now most people would just cut this in half again to make a sandwich, but I decided to cut it into a bunch of thin slices, which I do not recommend. Now when you're cooking a chicken breast just on top of the stove, the seasoning doesn't really matter at all. You really just season it however you want. It's just more so down to the cooking because you don't want it to come out dry. Just make sure your oil is hot and cook it on both sides for 3 minutes until it's brown on both sides. Or at least that's what I'd do if I were cooking it in thin strips like this. If you're gonna cook it whole, maybe leave it face down for 5 minutes without moving. Alright, now it's finally time to nibble. Now we gotta go to the sandwich. It's a simple sandwich. It's just like mayonnaise, the chicken, and this bread I made with some lettuce. All right, let me. My only regret is not adding more cheese. Next video, I'm using all the parts that are left over, so like the back, and I normally would save the wings for this to make chicken stock. And then I'm going to spend all day reducing that chicken broth down in the meat glaze, which is something you see me use in a few videos now. And it's just my favorite way to store my chicken stock because you can just condense one entire container of chicken stock into teeny tiny bits of gel. And it keeps it in the fridge for a while. Honestly, once you learn how to make your own chicken stock and your own meat glaze, everything just kind of pays off. Because you can use that in sauce, soup, and so many other things. So I'll see you guys on Monday, and don't forget to like and subscribe.